to the Rainbow Six North American League Analyst Desk. Your host, Joey, here along with Jesse J, Chick, Caliber Jacob, and Joe Bro, stopping by from his work with Team Sonics to drop a little bit of knowledge on us. Or maybe don't drop the knowledge on us, just give it to us nicely.
I was not dropping any knowledge on that TSM bet. That was certainly, I could
have said. To be fair, none of us were.
I could have said something eloquent about XSET to praise them on their averageness of being good at the second best in two things, right? So that's good. And TSM had more of that dichotomy between first and like ninth in terms of attack and defense. So this is actually going to influence which way I'm going to go on this next bet. I'm going to hedge my bets on the team that actually has the higher ratings on sides.
Well, let's look at the standings and just see how all of that is impacting the standings.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the standings. XSET has jumped up to first place with a win over TSM. They're tied in points, of course, but now they got that head-to-head. East Coast and Sonics in 3 and 4, but it's this DarkZero Parabellum, the one we're about to go into, 7th and 8th in the standings. Still chances to come back up. DarkZero looking a little bit better in their last match, but kind of surprising to see the Charlotte Major finalists way down there, huh?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this for Astralis through the first 4, but they did have the DP Fire thing to concern themselves with.
True.
Now all of Astralis are playing, hopefully, at the LAN Center for the first time, which is fantastic to see. DarkZero is more of a concern because we touted them as being the best attacking team in the league back during the Charlotte Major when they made that whole historic run. And, well, we're seeing practically the opposite for this DZ team. So they need a big win to jump up here. But again, the standings are still so close that even if they don't get a win today, it's probably still not the end of the world for their major qualification chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm concerned for Astralis, too. Their only regulation win was against Mirage. Their other win was an overtime victory. They did just lose to TSM, and they've got the other loss as well. So certainly a team that's been struggling since their deep run at Charlotte. But hey, I'm just glad we got the rematch. It's too bad it's only one map. But in a way, you know, traditionally, historically, we're going to take a look at those stats in a moment. Historically, that would favor Astralis because DZ needed some time, even at the end in Charlotte, to ramp up. But what do you think is going to happen today?
I mean, hopefully more of what we saw back during the Major, but we're looking at a couple really weird inconsistencies for both teams. Obviously, it's DarkZero's attacking prowess is slowed down, but on the opposite side, we're not seeing Iconic be the same superstar that we've seen so far. It feels like this Astralis team just has a couple pieces that aren't in the puzzle the way that they were just, 5 weeks ago?
Not long.
4 weeks ago?
And to build off of that, like the vibe is definitely weird for Astralis, right? Because they have had players sick or DP Fires sick and have had to play from home. So when you're playing from home, you have it's a different feeling. You're at home, you're a little bit maybe more relaxed, maybe more frustrated because you're not in that like game mode. So like being back on stage for Astralis is kind of going to be the first time I think that they've been on stage since the grand final appearance.
I think you're right.
They were on back when Call Out when he subbed in. They were on stage and immediately went back. But it still kind of has the same feeling of they haven't really started their stage yet, right? So they're still looking to do that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of history, starting things, there's a lot that has happened between these two teams over the years. Isn't that right?
It is indeed. I want to turn your attention to the brand new Tell the Tape that we've been looking forward to putting together. This is just setting the stage for how this matchup's going to go, and we should hopefully see this for every game going forward. 9th place for Astralis, 6th for DarkZero, but look at the discrepancy on how they attack and how they defend. DarkZero, the single best, currently, defensive team that we have in the league, but look at how far they fell off on attack since the Charlotte Major. Look at how far down that is.
Yeah, they were the best attacking team in Charlotte. That was like what they dominated the Major with. It was really their attacks that won them that Major in many senses of the word. Astralis also had very good attacks throughout the Major. Both these teams falling off hard through their first 4 games. It's a bit of a low sample size, and I think both teams maybe need a little bit more time to get going with their attacks, but certainly weird to see these stats.
It is. You know, one of the things that jumps out at me with DarkZero is that I think theoretically they're on the longest round win streak in the league right now because they won 7 in a row against Parabellum. I don't think anyone else is on that right now. And it's kind of an aberration. It's kind of a silly stat to bring up, but it is kind of funny to think about.
I mean, that Parabellum game was a stomp. So
after the first 3 rounds,
credit where credit is due. And I don't want to put like Astralis and Parabellum necessarily on the same level, but I do still wonder if like the amount of inconsistencies that Astralis have on attack, if it's a confidence thing, if it's the way that they push, the strats that they decide to bring out, it doesn't feel nearly as fleshed out as it was maybe a month, 2 months ago. It feels very not like they're not trying, but more like they could put more heart into it and they'd have a way different result. Same with DZ, because they find themselves in a similar position.
Agreed. Wow, we got something a little bit different right now because these teams have so much history against each other, especially recently. We're actually going to look at the map bans first because there's so much to talk about with that once we know where they're going, based on all the games we've seen them play against each other, that'll help us inform kind of like what we have to look forward to for this particular map.
Yeah, in the last year, Astralis and DarkZero have played on 5 of the 9 maps in the pool, so there's so much history. It's going to be great to be able to take a look at where we're going first so that we can kind of narrow in, go back to those previous results, and figure out maybe where we're headed for this first map.
Before we get into it, any predictions, Joe Bro? What do you think?
Oh.
Putting you on the spot here,
predictions?
but hey, welcome to my desk.
Where do you want to see them play?
I want to see more Skyscraper.
Or any skyscraper. For that
We haven't seen it all this stage, yeah.
But like DZ permaban Skyscraper. So that's
True.
just
Always
not gonna happen. So maybe later today still we can get Skyscraper.
I would like an Oregon. They've been very close. They played Oregon a lot so far. I think that could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
DZ on Oregon's usually a slugfest. I'm kind of down with it. I don't really know if Astralis is down with it because I have a feeling they've banned it more often than not if they've had the chance to. Haven't played it yet in this stage so far for Astralis. DarkZero themselves have. I'm down for something like a Border or a Chalet, though. I'm down for something where you get a little bit more in your opponent's faces, so to speak, if you're playing a little bit more hard and fast, loose with the law. I'm very down for something like that because it feels like DarkZero need to maybe get out of the strategy a little bit, so to speak, and try to play a little bit more heavy, but it's not something that immediately suits their play style, but we'll see what we can jump into. So, a couple permabans off the board, so no Skyscraper. Sorry, Joe. We'll get them. I want this too, but we will eventually get there. The no Chalet for Astralis, that's another one that they have a 100% ban rate on so far through this stage, so unlikely that we will see it unless for some reason they do manage to qualify for the major in Berlin. So we'll run through the rest of this and see if anything else interesting pops up. The Oregon ban for DarkZero I think is a little bit interesting because that's one they've always had in their back pocket, but against this Astralis team, there's something about it that they simply don't want to concern themselves with. And Clubhouse has never really felt like Astralis' strong suit. Even at times when they've gone to it, it was only, it was like the one time, and last time they played it was against DarkZero in that grand final, and lost it despite callout saying they think they have something for it, so it's smart for them to remove it. No theme park for DarkZero, which obviously is a pretty smart play, and then we look to Cafe for AST, and yeah, I like what this is dwindling these last couple of maps down to here.
Yeah, so looking at this, we have the Cafe ban. Next up, let's see what it is. Hopefully it's hopefully it's Villa. Thank God it's Villa. I don't want to analyze another Villa game today. Talking points.
Ooh, Border.
So we got Border. So I like the Astralis ban on Bank here because the last game they played Bank, I think DP Fire started out 0-6 on defense. And I think if you're looking to have a player who's coming back, who feels healthy again and wants to play a map, why not give him some place to play and just frag out? Because Border is a lot more active in terms of how the defense has to play than Bank because you're trying to stall for time and like have layers to unwrap as a defender. So going to Border here, we can see Astralis hopefully will be more on the fighting side for these rounds. And I think that that's really powerful because looking at DZ, that game was pretty closely contested. And I think that with Astralis having lost that game specifically, that cascaded them to go to Bank. They're thinking about now, what if? What if we had won Border? What would have happened, right? They would have won, right?
Right.
So for them, taking a look at their Border, understanding what they did wrong on their Border last time, now taking it into this Border against DZ allows them to right those wrongs and take revenge.
It was map 3 of the grand finals in Charlotte. It was 7-4 for DarkZero. It started off very even, a 3-3 split, with Pambazoo having a fantastic time entering on Finca. But then when it got to the defense, DarkZero blew Astralis away. They had some pretty creative stuff, some pretty cool castle setups that they played over on Border that Astralis just couldn't get a hold of. So maybe if Astralis have done that VOD review work, they've prepped for those setups, and they can come in and really get the win over DarkZero here.
Let's talk about Astralis a little bit more in depth here, because out of the two teams in this series, I feel like despite the struggles DarkZero has had, Astralis is the team that has yet to really show us what we saw in Charlotte, you know?
Yeah, I feel that, like, again, Astralis had such a good run in the major. They made it all the way to the grand finals, and they did a lot of really strong attacks, and we saw with that graphic that Jacob brought up earlier, they just haven't been having that same success. I think a big reason why is because of players like Iconic, who usually fill that role of running in through entry, right, are able to kind of run with the greatest of guns and get a lot of those opening picks. Just haven't really seen that as much from him so far, and so that's something I'd like to see perhaps improved on from Astralis. I still think there have been some positives. I think Forrest has been pretty solid. I think he had a pretty solid last week as well, and he's kind of been that crazy kind of support, more of a flex. Roles are hard to define for Astralis, but he's been one of those players that's had a lot of pop-off moments in the past, and I think he's at least been living up to that in the games that they've been doing all right in.
The only reason I have a cause for concern for this Astralis team is it feels like it takes a long time for them to get going when they're in the server, which is probably more of an issue stemming from the way that they decide to call and how they want rounds to play out. And when they get to a point where their strategy is executed the way that they want, it happens too slow, or there's not enough time left in the round for it to really come to fruition. So if they take more, I guess, of the initiative to start with, then I feel like Astralis will do way better on their attacks. On defenses, they'll still play for retakes and they'll do it super well. And on an environment like Border, where they were super like energetic and dynamic and deciding that they're going to make these plays together. I remember the J90 iconic like Wamai Oryx plays back on CCTV where they would bust through a wall, surprise their opponents. I do think DarkZero, understanding how much they have to VOD review, will be well prepared for that, but this team is going to be super mobile on defense and they have that side first, which is why this actually really excites me for the Astralis side.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to just also the ends of the rounds too, because NJR and Iconic, who used to be teammates, are at the top between last stage and this stage for clutches won. So I believe NJR has 5 clutches won to Iconic's 4. So if these come down to these last 2, I would love to see that rivalry continue to see who can come out on top for the clutches.
That would be sick. You know, I can't help but notice Callout sitting in the background there. He looked a little bit sad. I think he wants to be back in the action. He wants to be back in the lineup again.
I mean,
you know, he's a pretty good coach.
He did. Hey, he had his moment in the sun, and he won that game against the Sonics to start the season off. Which, how the heck did they even manage to do that with a substitute, Joe? Why don't you enlighten us here?
Let's just say I don't want to target him, but specifically the DP Fire starting 0-6 would have been really nice to have for us.
Yeah.
I would have rather had that than Call Out, who is very cerebral in how he plays. And so even on that, being able to play those rounds out with a leader present is a lot more powerful.
Exactly, yeah. Well, let's take a look at Iconic stats specifically here. And again, this is a player that was such a superstar in Charlotte, and it just hasn't come together in the same way here in Stage 2, not by a long shot.
So this is Stage 2 so far for Iconic, 27-36. Of the 7 stages that he's played so far in the NAL, this is by far the worst he's had. It's the first stage that he's going negative. It's the first stage that he's under a 100 EPS. He's historically been a highlight player for every team that he's been on. We just haven't seen it so far this stage. I feel like sometimes on the roams, he's getting a little over-aggressive, especially when he's playing super important operators. He could be playing the Azami or Smoke, operators that thrive in the late game, but he's just not finding impact because he's dying so much early. But I want to bring your attention to some of the other stats that we've seen from him, because Iconic is a player, Joe, that I know used to play under your team, and back in the NAL, back in 2020, he played for the Sonics, and I wanted to ask you, despite the poor performance he's having this stage, do you feel that Iconic is a better player now that he's here on Astralis than he was back when you guys removed him from your team?
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely, because Iconic has had time to mature through the Astralis program, and he's been a mainstay on this roster ever since. So being able to watch him grow in his career, even if it's not on the Sonics, has been super awesome for me and very rewarding. And also to be able to see his play style, that kind of lurk, baity play style, that's really in vogue in the meta right now. So it's just a natural strength for him to be able to continue to excel.
Absolutely. Well, Iconic needs to excel a little bit more this stage if he wants to help give his team Astralis the win over DarkZero, of course, the team that took them down after 5 maps in Charlotte. Let's talk about DZ a little bit here as we take our final look there at Astralis. DarkZero, of course, our Charlotte Major champions. You can't say it enough. A team that has struggled a little bit, but coming off a win, the momentum might be back. They're going to need it. They've never been the greatest best-of-1 team, it seems like, especially if you look back at Stage 1 and against a team like Astralis. Even Astralis in the state they're in right now, they got to bring their A game.
It felt like what we saw from DarkZero on Playday 4 was heads and tails different from what we saw in Playdays 2 and 3. It felt like at the start of this stage, DarkZero's attacks just weren't there against both SSG and Sonics. They weren't getting those advantages early, or if they were, they would stall out and they would really let the roamers get away with it. As we saw a lot for Sonics, is they weren't really capitalizing off of any of that early aggression. It felt like Parabellum were almost the perfect team for DarkZero to face to kind of reset that, because although they're not easy to clear, they're not easy to predict, you kind of know that they're going to be doing something. I think Troy said it best in the interview when he said there's no way you can predict exactly what Parabellum are going to do, but if you're careful and you take your time, they will give you kills. And I felt like DarkZero really accomplished that. And I'm a little worried that Astralis are going to fall into that same trap. Astralis are a team that can kind of get over-aggressive on the defense sometimes. You know, we've seen it from Iconic, I think, earlier in this stage, where he's just been, I think, going for plays that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, going for plays that are very, very risky. And if DarkZero are ready to shut that down, if DarkZero are waiting for it, they could really pick up some rounds over Astralis on attack.
And I think that kind of also plays into the fact that DP Fire has been sick this entire time. They've been playing with Callout.
Fair.
So Iconic has had that urge to, like, forced urge to do something.
Feels that desperation a little bit.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you have a player like Iconic who feels like he's forced to do something, we would always talk about on the Sonics about the idea of pressure. And if you feel like you have to do something, the pressure is on you. You're not applying the pressure, right? So now with DP Fire back, with them being back on stage, I really want to see Iconic slow it down, trust his teammates, and trust that they'll get kills to support him so he can lurk, flank, and shoot people in the back at the end of the round.
Yeah, you shouldn't need to have to be the superstar every single game, even if that's what you're kind of like known as, right?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's a team game. Everyone has to operate at a unit, right? So speaking of units operating, our unit did not operate super great last time when we all picked the wrong team to win. Let's see if we can do a little bit better. Of course, I take no personal responsibility because I am just giving you what the coin says. I am merely the vessel, like I always say, right? But let's toss it over to the casters first to see what they have to say about this one. Pengu and Intero are waiting with bated breath to let us know. Isn't that right?
Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to have you back, by the way.
Hello there.
Thank you. Happy
Welcome
to be
back.
here.
Welcome back. Different animal. I had Lynx last week. Now I now have you as a penguin.
Penguin, yes, that
Or
is
Pengu.
correct. You're the same.
Your org. We are always going to cast DarkZero when you're here. There's no way around it. Do you think they're going to win today?
If you had asked me that question just a few months ago, I would have said no.
Okay.
But because you're asking today, hell yeah, DarkZero wins.
Bias. Bias caster.
I think
Bias
I
off the
feel there
desk.
might be
Can't
some
anymore.
bias.
We're just
in that
filling
answer.
our
All
desks
right,
with
let me
bias
break it down.
today.
I'll allow it because, like, I'm going to be biased too. So, like, I need someone else who's biased, so that's fine.
As long as
Appreciate
it's
that.
open and
Please
known,
proceed.
yes.
I was going to say, like, you know, Astralis had a bit of a rough season so far. That the whole, we spoke about, right? Call out playing, DB5 being sick, yada, yada, yada. DC, they haven't had those issues. And sure, they haven't played amazing in the beginning of the stage, but they've been playing with their main roster the entire time without those issues being against them. So I think they have just a little bit of an edge in this matchup.
I think a little bit of an edge is what's going to decide this. I mean, if you go back to the Charlotte Major 7-4 for DarkZero, DZ has played this map already in Stage 2. They lost it to Space Station. So to me, it is quite literally a coin flip, which Joel will be doing later, but I do think DarkZero has a small edge here as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if we go into overtime.
All right, so 2 for DarkZero, but with some caveats there. Not from Pengu, but Intero kind of saying, yeah, all right, maybe a little bit.
Not sold.
All right.
Not
We'll
sold.
wait and see. Yeah, I mean, you have to make your best guess, right?
We'll
That's
show
the
him.
point.
Pengu's over here drinking DZ's Kool-Aid. It's whatever.
Oh, man, come on. Just because two guys are,
pay
sharing
the
the same
bills.
container.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hey, Astralis, I'll do the same thing if you hire me, but, you know,
Wow, we talked about Iconic's desperation earlier, and
I'll do whatever it takes. man.
new level.
I will do whatever it takes to get verified.
Well, let's move on to our analysts. We'll catch up with our casters in a little bit here. maybe some Sonics thing going on. Who knows? But our analysts, Jacob, what do you think about this one?
It's a bit of a tough one, and I do agree with the idea that Astralis' struggles have been pretty, like, it's fundamental stuff. They haven't had a chance to get going. It feels like DZ is more in a rhythm, and I like the fact that they essentially dismantled what Astralis did last time they played Border in the Charlotte Major Grand Finals. I'm not going to overcomplicate this one. I'll just take DZ as a matter of principle.
All right, there you go. I think logical pick based on recent results. But Joe Bro, what do you say?
See, I would expect that kind of analysis from someone who is not verified on Twitter. So, like, it's very like,
wow.
we're going to pick that. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Astralis here. The reason I'm going for Astralis here is because they are actually a lot closer, I think, in terms of DZ, the differential between here. Astralis being like 9th and 8th, yes, but that also hasn't been with their full team fully healthy. And I think now being back on stage with your full team is really going to give them the edge here, and I think that will allow them to keep the vibes up to win this game.
I said on Twitter after that first game that I only predict winners. And And then I predict TSM. So I'm going to rein that ego back in a little bit here, and I'm just going to go with DarkZero. They've played better so far this stage. I think Astralis certainly still has a lot to be proven, whereas I think DarkZero in that 4th game, they really impressed me. They look like they're back to full strength, so I'm hoping we see more of that today, and they'll take the win.
You know, we haven't doomed DarkZero yet because Joe Bro picked Astralis.
thank
I'm
God.
saving all of your votes.
Thank you.
You really are saving.
I'm down to the gutter right
That's
now.
true.
Yep.
You know, as far as like team sponsoring people, you know, I've been a big fan of the Korean org T1 for a long time. Oh, never
Awkward.
mind.
Sorry.
Never mind. Well, let's move on to the coin flip then and see what it has to say. It's going to be Astralis heads, DarkZero tails as usual. Oh my. I'm just kidding. It's DarkZero. It's not a big surprise there. You can see it. There you go. Tails. DarkZero.
Jeez.
All right, Astralis, don't let me
coin
down
says
here.
DarkZero,
To the stars.
yeah. The fans. What do the fans say? Let's see what the Twitter poll has for us.
This could swing either way. Yeah.
DarkZero. All right, Joe Bro, you really may be saving us from another.
I have faith.
Another
in
curse.
Thank you. I
I have
appreciate
J9. I have Iconic, who were on the Sonics at one point. I'm trusting that they're going to be able to take this against DZ, who are the major champs. But that was an old major. This is the new Astralis. Healthy
True
again.
enough. True enough. Has Joe Bro saved us from the NAL predictions curse? Or will it just work out for Astralis anyway? We'll find out. Let's take a look at our community poll here. What are we going to chat about before the game begins? Who would win the Charlotte Major Grand Final if they played it right now? Oh, that's an interesting one, actually. I kind of wish we had more time to talk about that. That
is a tough call.
Yeah, it is. Well, we'll
Even if
discuss
it's
that
not
a little
like
bit.
map dependent,
Yeah.
it's a tough one.
It is. We'll have to discuss it while we watch the game a little bit. We'll pay attention to. Don't worry. You will as well. But you've got a quick break now to answer that question. Get a snack. Hang out. I don't know. Get comfortable because in just a few minutes, we have our Charlotte Major Grand Finals rematch. Astralis versus DarkZero right here in NAL. In just a few. Don't go anywhere.
Trippin' Aquafina, I'm sippin' 15, kept a weapon on me. Flow make digits, I'm on my business, stack chicken like what it's gon' be. Crew in the cut, hey, you want us red run when I tell a peace. Love is love. Love is love. Adios. Bendo with the switch again. Boy deliver like he heffinin'. Core with digits, give him estimates. Summer sauce for my Benjamins. I got what you need, baby. Skirt the Chevy, make a scene, baby. LABB been the team, baby. Bim Papa, word the G, baby. Look, labs till I'm finished. Had a handful of lemons through the hand. Got a bag, now the hands in the business. For my hand, it's a ticket. Talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been playing with the minutes that they been shoulda gave. And I'm flipping every digit that they been shoulda paid. Had to find a way to get it. No, this isn't what you made. If I ever wanna dip, then I'm brink with the blade. And I'm brinking a blink on the brink of some dumb shit. Watch how I move, cause I know the brink's coming. Watch for the blues, cause I know that they dumping. Nothing in my view, so it's hush on discussion. Hush on discussions, you know what you need to. I keep it in the fam to let you know that I don't need you. Y'all cats be see-through, head knocks the piece. You been king, I'm regal, got it in my abisu. Came through trippin' Aquafina, I'm sippin' 15, kept a weapon on me. Flow make digits, I'm on my business, stack chicken like what it's gon' be. Crew in the cut, hey, you want us red run when I tell a peace. Love is love. Love is love. Hold up with it, got my back on Pippin. I'm back in kitchens with the tray. Windows tinted like how black my skin is. Scoop the shorty in it from a J. Swish, she got vision just like any women.
Campus here, and this is the NAL.
Matchup number 3 is live, and we got a rematch of the Charlotte Major, as was talked about on the desk. DarkZero versus Astralis going head-to-head. Different looks for these teams, though. One enters in 7th place. One enters in 9th place. Without looking, can you guess who they are? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know?
I know DC's on top, baby. That's what I know.
DZ in 7th place. Astralis in 9th. It hasn't been a very good run for either of these teams post-LAN, and it's called a championship hangover.
Yeah,
Sort of.
it kind of happens. The thing is, DarkZero historically
Astralis,
have.
to be honest.
they've had a really bad time, right? They lost the finals and now they're like 9th place.
Yes.
But DarkZero has never historically been like a great team in the NAL per se. Like they've barely been breaking top 4 and whatnot, making events. But Astralis last season, they looked like the new SSG almost, right? Slaughtering the region domestically and doing so well, making the grand finals at the major in Charlotte, and it's gone. So they need something to happen in this matchup, and what better way to prove it than beat the team that beat you in the grand finals very recently?
Rematches do tend to favor the losers, which in this case was Astralis. They lost the Charlotte Major Grand Final in that best of 5 that we saw, and one of those maps was Border, and it was a crucial map that DZ needed to win on the way to their victory. It was a 7-4 victory for DarkZero over Astralis, with some interesting operator bans that we can reference when we get into the actual match. Astralis have not played Border so far through their odd season that they've had. We are halfway through stage 2. They had to play 1 game with their coach call-out, then they had to play 3 games off stage because DP Fire could not play because he had COVID. And teams, of course, across the NAL have actually been suffering bouts of COVID, and there's another today that we will announce later on that tweeted about it before we went live, that they also are still having issues with COVID. But this is the first time that this full Astralis roster is going to be on stage. Do you think that's going to make a difference?
I think it will. I mean, what I wonder is, will it make a difference on the very first day, or is this like getting back into the groove, if you will? You've been playing from home, that's one issue. And the second one is that you haven't had all your 5 people on this stage for a while, so this could perhaps be, getting back into it, getting comfortable, and getting DP Fire up to speed. And they kind of need to, make it work today, because otherwise you keep falling further and further behind, and then we got a question, can Astralis still make the major at that point, or do they just have 0 mistakes left that they're able to make? So hopefully for them, they'll just be flowing through it and doing good from the get-go, but I am worried for them.
I mean, it's going to be a test of both of these teams in terms of the way that Border gets played out. Last week, you weren't here, but Lynx joined me, and he actually went into depth about why Border has been more defender-sided in North America than in other regions. Will that hold true here? Well, both of these teams were known for their attacking prowess last stage. Hasn't really materialized just yet. We'll get underway with this matchup as we load into Border. When they played in Charlotte, the bans were Flores and Nook on attack, and Maestro and Mira on defense. And would you look at that?
Hey.
Oh, would you look at that? They ban Flores right away. And it was Astralis who banned Flores, and it was Astralis who banned Maestro. They started on defense in Charlotte. They do so again. What's that saying? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Things are looking very, very similar. The same operators that were banned out.
We might just get a full-on rematch here, actually, between these two teams. Saying, you know what? We don't think the result reflected correctly last time. Nope.
There's a gumming up the gears as the new Japanese operator of Azami, whose power rate in play is very high, and her influence rate has been through the roof. She's almost always played, if not banned, and a lot of teams have opted to remove her from play. DarkZero taking care of her. That's no surprise. Astralis final ban. Who do they get rid of? Is it Maestro again? No, it's Mira. So it was DZ who got rid of Mira before. That leaves Maestro available. That's really the only change right now. Same side, same map, 3 of the 4 same operator bans.
Interesting. I mean, so the thing about Asami is that normally we talk about Asami, we say like Bank is like the one map where she really comes to shine because of these like long lines of sight and you can like really shape the bomb site itself. But Border or Coastline, if that map was still in the map pool, I think that's also a place where Asami can get played on pretty much every single bomb site because it's such a lethal map to play. I mean, Border, you can't just sit on the bomb site and bunker up and be like, oh, all is good in defense. No, you gotta, as Jobro said it, you gotta create these layers, right? Stall for time on defense, extend out on the map, set up problems for the attackers to solve, and Asami's really good at that. So it being removed from the side of DarkZero when they're starting on attack as well makes a lot of sense because if they can muster up, 3-4 rounds before the side swap, they're in a great position for their own defensive side once they get there.
Starting on that upstairs bomb site for Astralis will be this armory and office area, even though it's not called office. Archives, as it's officially referred to as. The office component is behind it, just with the fountain as the adjoining room. In terms of defensive setup for Astralis, we have seen teams, and we saw last week on the Border matches that we witnessed, use this Oryx to roam very quickly. What does Oryx bring to this particular bomb site?
Speed, momentum, violence, and of course the option to play both on the first floor and get right back up through those hatches once again. And that just gives you like one more layer to play with, because normally if a defender is playing downstairs, you can quite easily get isolated and there's no real way back up to the bomb site. But because you're Oryx, you always have that option jumping up through a hatch, which gives you that another layer to work with. And that's exactly what we see here. Forest getting very active, very aggressive, and trying to find as many drones as possible. Already 3 off board for DarkZero.
That's unsurprising to see this early bit of action from Astralis taking the heat to DarkZero. You talked about the layers, as did Joe Bro. And in terms of the layers of the defense for Astralis, every time we see them, they get very active on the roam. They like to hold off site, and they can do some serious damage. The problem is for Astralis, this season, the term we used to describe it is very feast or famine. They either get an opening pick or they get doomed, and Forest on that Oryx operator runs right into a Claymore from Eclipse. DZ don't need to break a sweat. Immediately, they get that very first pick off of the roam from the Oryx and open things up with half of the round to go.
That's a tough start, because now you lost that, bottom 4 layer, and now support from the other members, for example, on the player on East Stairs is limited. Now Iconic looking to get aggressive, trying to even back that man count, but DC, they're all just sitting outside the building waiting for something to happen.
There's another Adrenal Surge that goes out. Pambazoo still has one left, rocking the Finka. 2 LMGs on the board for DarkZero. Look at that. Iconic crosses over to Canadian, and he didn't know where he was coming from. Iconic still holding this area by staff. Shuttle not too far off inside of security. DZ with a pretty good spread outside of the building, but the problem is getting indoors. Rat-a-tat-tat of the LMG now, as NJR has made his way indoors. He's just down below and catches Shuttle quite easily, actually. Down goes Hyper, though. Both of these teams getting good licks in on each other, but it's a stalemate at 3v3 with 45 seconds left.
And at some point, someone's got to bite and take a whole chunk, because right now, as you said, they're just licking each other. Not really a whole lot of damage being done, and it's a 1-for-1 trade in both scenarios, and no real map control being guaranteed, but now DC are looking to execute in this next 10 seconds.
So much licking, Nick. It's really just going to come down to who gets the better lick in before the round ends. And it's Iconic to start off this execute. 20 seconds left. Astralis with the numbers advantage. Smoke to choke out Pambazoo as he wants in towards Armory. He's got a clip side by side. Those are the last 2 players from DZ and the last 2 hopes as Iconic holds this cross, but J90 is there with shotgun out. This is effectively doomed. Pambazoo's on the ground, but he gets cut across from DP Fire in security. And it turns out Astralis were the team who got the better licks in, and that is it for round number 1.
Astralis is better and a good first round for them, despite that unfortunate situation with Forest and the Claymore. Well, Iconic, he held on to that security-ish area on that balcony for a very long time, and DC, the one critique I have is that the break room door, the room next to security, that door was never really opened up until the tail end of that round, and that's why Iconic could move around so freely and go between East Stairs and security and find 2 of those kills in a comfortable position and rotation for the defensive side. Normally we see teams open up the break room door immediately and try and cut that rotation in half, so the only way out from security is if you drop down that hatch like we mentioned earlier, where only Oryx could jump back up again. It wasn't done, it was punished, it was well done from Astralis, and they also get the round because of it. So they start on Armory, now we're going downstairs to the bathroom tellers area instead, where of course we're going to be extending up above once again to add those layers and expand or extend out on this map as much as possible. You see my DP5 putting down a magnet on the East Stairs, which means that they're going to try and have focus pretty much at every single entry point for the attackers. Security, East Stairs, the bomb site itself, and probably something in Armory Archives as well. So DC have to choose where they want to go from, and this time they'll actually have to get inside the building and challenge Astralis somewhere on the map. You can't win from outside the building, it just won't work.
Well, you said get inside the building. It was something that troubled DarkZero through that mid portion of the round, but Pambazoo's been gifted an entry in. The door gets shot away, and just like that, look at the freebie onto J90. Round number 2. It's the first kill for DarkZero. Again, even though in round number 1 it was a Claymore kill, doesn't matter. You still get the opening pick. You still had an advantage. The advantage was squandered by DZ on the previous round because of the play still offsite from Astralis. How is that going to work here on this bathroom teller's defense?
I mean, with Astralis being so spread out, they need as many people alive as possible because they need somewhere in the map that they can play together. And, well, with one man missing, that just means that now you're spread even thinner, or you're forced to grant, DarkZero even more map control. And we see now already Iconic falling off that security position, but the C4... Nice, Forest.
And JR on the soft wall of Armory, outside of the building. Getting in might be a trouble for DZ, but if you're Astralis, you can still bring the heat outside of the confines of the map. This has been quick action. 2 players dead already, still over half of the round to go. DZ inside the building, a second Nitro cell, primed and ready from Shuttle. It's a pre-placed just by the hatch that's upstairs inside of Archives. Mute Jammers are going to stop DarkZero's advance into the very crucial part of the map called Workshop. And, well, it actually looks like the Mute Jammers affected all of us, friends. But we're back. Onto the pulse from above. Still holding this angle. Forest Nitro Cell doing good work earlier on that we talked about. Getting that opening pick.
Oh my
Still
God.
there. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
They're coming for him.
And it's Canadian who goes onto the ground, and Astralis finds their mark. It's Forest to collect 2 with the UMP in hand. Nicely done. DP fire from inside of the bomb site. Guns down Eclipse. It's Hyper in a 1v4. This offsite play from Astralis has been fantastic so far through these 2 rounds.
I mean, right now they're sacrificing the opening kill, but then getting every single kill after that fact. And now Hybrid, 44 bullets and 44 seconds, has to find 4 kills to find a round for his team. And it's a little bit unlikely because you got so many things working against you. The goo mines, default cameras, the pulse scanner, etc. And there's just no real time for Hybrid to work with. I doubt this is doable.
Spotted on a cam, saw the goo mine, nice precision onto the head of Forest, expecting a push from up over lobby, and that's exactly what he finds. Mute Jammer not too far off, but that's not the goal. The goal are the 3 remaining players from Astralis. Not all of whom are on the bomb site. Hyper knows that one of them is at the soft wall that just got reinforced.
It's an arm.
They might be able to capitalize off of it, but Shuttle comes to the rescue before Hyper can get a meaningless kill. And that's a second in a row for Astralis as they've taken both of the rounds here on Border.
Astralis did a really good job of collapsing together. Like 3 members just chased down Troy inside of ventilation. Pulse walked down the hallway and through the door. 2 people on the softball started wall banging it, trying to get an angle to Troy. Troy didn't know where to look. There was too many different scenarios that could play out there. And then right after that, they find Pambasu inside of customs. 2 people swing him. The first guy injures him. The second guy secures the kill. And that just means that DarkZero are now done and dusted. And they only had just entered the building, and immediately Astralis are there to challenge them inside of ventilation. And that's now where the bomb site will be. So normally when you defend ventilation, attackers will go upstairs, either take security and then work on Armory and Archives, or they'll just go for Armory Archives directly and try and get a foothold above, utilize the vertical destruction. We see NGR go from Buck to Sledge with that attacker repick, maybe signifying this similar playstyle. But the bottom line here is DZ needs to stop fishing for kills, trying to find them, because besides that very first opening kill of both rounds, Astralis aren't giving anything else up, and DZ need to actually get in and work for those kills, because the way Astralis is playing is correct. They're playing aggressive, they're playing dynamically, and they're just swinging with 2 people against 1 attacker wherever they can, and at the absolute worst case scenario, Astralis will end up trading 1 for 1, which will always favor the defenders because you, of course, keep that map control, which the attackers need to try and get.
This reminds me of the Astralis match that we watched on Theme Park, if you recall, how aggressively they held off-site, and there were some issues that were being had to try and pin them down. That was what? That was against... Who was it against again?
Don't ask me, because I do not remember.
I'm trying to recall exactly what match it was. I think it was against Mirage. But the difference was that with Mirage, Mirage was really struggling against that Astralis offsite play. And if Astralis can work well with the full team together, then they can succeed on just about any bomb site, anywhere off the map, even if they keep surrendering these opening picks, which has happened again. DarkZero walk in, they take down Shuttle, Canadian tries, or Pambasu tries to get out, he gets downed, picked back up with the Adrenal Surge and finished off by Iconic. So Astralis do surrender that first pick, but it is largely just a trade. There's no advantage gained, and if anything is now, you're on the heels of another Astralis player, it's given DZ a burst of confidence to potentially catch Astralis as they rotate to get back to the bomb site to account for the fact that their numbers have dwindled.
That's what they gotta do. They gotta get in there and fight. But once again, I saw 2 members. They swing immediately onto Hybrid. He's off the board. Now NTR follows Troop, and it's just Eclipse and Canadian in a 2v3. And sure, they got a bit of map control, but it cost them 2 members.
A workshop defense downstairs as well, so you have to clear out the top floor before you translate that to the bomb site. Canadian has no kills to his name. This is a bit of an oddity for how Canadian has been playing over the last 4 play days. He's actually led his team through the halfway point of a lot of these matches. When you've seen your traditional players like NJR or even Panbazoo not exactly having the greatest results. Him and Eclipse are a good duo to work on, the 2 oldest members of the team, but now it's just all on the Canadian, who breaks that goose egg, gets a kill, but watches his teammate fall to Forest. 1v2, Iconic on half. DMR in the hands of Canadian as he creeps up. He's got the diffuser too, no?
Not even upstairs.
It's very far away, and they know it. And they know his position. As all these Banshees are going to go off, Cams as well to give his position away. Diffuser will need to be retrieved. Look at the destruction onto the wall from the DMR, but you're just telling them where you're coming from and telegraphing your entry back to that diffuser. Let's see some pings in as Canadian grabs that diffuser and now cuts off over towards 90 with a flash. Another flash goes down, but it's Iconic there, who's not blinded at all. Dokkaebi was just twisting and toiling and turning and
Falling.
ultimately falling. That is correct. Astralis are making quick work of this matchup. They're up 3-0.
So 3 rounds where DC has gotten all 3 opening kills, and 3 rounds where Astralis, they've gotten all of the round victories itself. So DC cannot convert this early lead to anything more substantial than just that, a early lead for a brief moment, where then Astralis, of course, they claw their way back and they end up in a neutral or favorable position. And this, of course, has forced a tactical timeout from the side of DarkZero, and we talk quite a lot these days about when you should take a tactical timeout. I think this is a great situation. You're down 0-3, your attacks aren't working, you still got 3 more rounds to go, plus you can talk about your defensive half once you get there. So we're hitting the brakes early, trying to steer the train back into civilization, into success, and I do think that this is the right play, but the question has to come, will the tactical timeout have any real influence on what's about to happen? Because I think DC would need to change quite a lot of their approach if they want to, find those 2 or 3 attacker rounds that they prefer. Because remember, DC banned Asami, so once they go to their defensive half, that is not available to them. It's not a tool they can use. Mirror's off the board as well, so it will come down to gunplay and information game as it has been for Astralis, the Pulse, the Valkyrie, etc. And I just think Astralis, they play so much better off dynamic intel and defense than what we usually see from DarkZero, unless we see Troy on that pulse that he, so often brings in maps like Cafe.
All good points to be made. Border is a coin toss here in North America, 52% so far in favor of the defenders, 48% in favor of the attackers, based on the, to be fair, the only 2 plays that we've seen from it at a top level. In terms of bomb site effectiveness, they're, well, it's kind of all over the place, but I mean, it sure looks like Ventilation Workshop is leading the way in terms of which bomb site is most successful. But again, small sample size. Astralis have run away with this first half, irrespective of what happens over the next 3 rounds. They've won this first half in the fact that they are not going to allow DZ to emerge with a lead. 3 rounds to 3 rounds is the worst it's going to get. So all told, pretty decent, but if the theory holds that this is an attacker-favored border, you want to get that 4th round. That's most critical. Now Astralis' window is the remaining 3. They just need to win a single round, and that's it. But of course, you want to run up the score. So good position to be in if you are Astralis, but look at that. Some things never change, and that's the first kill going in favor of DarkZero. Hasn't really mattered through these 3 rounds that we've seen, but again, it's DZ with an early lead.
That it is, but then again, they slow down. Now they just wait around and see if Astralis will lash on out. We see this player, bottom east stairs, I believe that's Iconic on the Lesion. Almost got caught by NGR, but not quite just yet, and Shuttle still has control of security. Forest has below in customs. You got those black eye Valkyrie cameras granting you information. You have no C4 to work with, sadly, so there's nothing like vertically that Astralis can really do. They have a single impact, and of course, can do a bit of damage, but that's the best you're gonna get. DC are working their way through the map slowly here. Of course, time has not been an issue yet. We have not gotten to the bomb site with 0 seconds left, because normally in the mid-round area, just about right now, is when Astralis, they start finding kills out of nowhere.
3 silhouettes right now near the MPX of Forest. They have a sixth sense, a deadly premonition that he's in here, but he's around the corner. Flashes will continue to go. This rat angle, I think they do know. If you look at where they're positioned, they suspect someone's in there, but they haven't been able to follow up just yet.
They don't know where exactly.
Look at this. Forest will creep up. Forest will creep up. There's a nade to go out, but he misses it on the Panbazoo. An opportunity lost. And with it, Astralis might have just blown the round. It's a 5v2 for DarkZero. 50 seconds left. Plenty of time. It's J90 and Iconic. One offsite. That's it. And Iconic won't be able to do much. Taken out by Hyper. It's J90 now offsite himself. Denies a flawless for DarkZero, but what more can he get? In a tough spot. Bullets tracing through the walls is just a tiny bit of HP for J90 is all he has left. And trying to play cat and mouse with the Zofia. Can't seem to track him down. There's the IQ instead to J90. Another as well. It's NJR softened up. Is a clutch here about to happen? Can J90 pull this off? Diffuser goes down. This is where things are going to get tough.
Oh, they know where he is. It's helping.
Hard right of the doorway. He's got the information, but he looks down instead of up. Try as much as you'd like, but ultimately, it's just simply too tall of a mountain to climb. And Astralis suffers their very first loss on defense. DZ, after their timeout, break their own goose egg and pick up round number 1.
They do it. I mean, it was so close. If that, if Forest instead of Customs had gotten those 2 kills on Panbazoo and NGR instead of Stockroom instead, that could have been a completely different round, because it would have been 3 versus 3 instead of that 5 versus 2. It was a close call, but Panbazoo was there to strike when it mattered. A grenade and an LMG kill back-to-back secured DC a massive lead, and that massive lead got them the win. So now he's trying a clutch from J90, but nothing came out of it, and we're gonna go to Armory once again. And I think if you're Astralis right now, honestly, just look at the first 45 seconds of the round, and that's like your one area that is a big weakness, right? You're sacrificing opening kill with no reward time and time again, and sure, it didn't matter the first 3 times, but it is going to eventually be a problem, and most importantly, you want to fix that now before you go to attack, because when you're on the attacking side, that's when losing that member really early on gets very crucial, because you need every single person to work together to try and gain up this map control, because DarkZero, I have no doubt, will play a similar style on border, because every team just recognizes that you need to be proactive, right? This is not like an Astralis way of playing this map. This is a pretty general way that you play border. It just happens that Astralis is so good at it.
Well, Armory for a 3rd attempt now by Astralis. 1-1. 1-1, lost one. These cute plays from Astralis are entertaining to watch, and we define them as cute because they are. I mean, they're unorthodox in comparison to many other teams in the North American League, and certainly unorthodox when compared to other regions. And for the first 3 rounds, it worked somewhat effectively, but I think you nailed it when you said you need to watch those first 45 seconds. You are consistently at a disadvantage. You've won the rounds, which is great. But at the end of the day, you want to set yourself up as best as possible. Is continually losing the first player setting yourself up for success? I don't think it's part of some greater plan here, but hey, guess what happens?
Oh no.
There's another opening pick, and it goes to DarkZero. I cursed it right in front of our eyes, but it's a trade back very quickly on. Canadian out of action. Down goes the Ash. Canadian now 1-5 on an operator whose pick rate is in the basement.
That it is. Iconic finds Hyper, ace off the board, so no hard breach left from DarkZero, and that's really going to add insult to injury because it is Armory bomb site, which means none of those exterior walls can be opened up, so now DC has to force the way through this map, and Forest still roaming down below as well, means more trouble you can handle. Only 3 players left, but you got 6 drones.
Oh, there's a rotate into Passport. As you can see, the Buck shoots away at this. Forest is primed and ready. This benefits Astralis huge because even if the Buck wins the fight, you've still killed 20 to 30 seconds down below. Again, sometimes roaming is not all about kills, but in this particular instance, Forest is going to want one. Fails at it. NJR capitalizes. Numbers go back to even, but as you pointed out, no hard breach for DarkZero. We don't know if the Selmas went off on the wall. Maybe, but either way, that could be a mortal blow to DarkZero's chances.
Doesn't look to be the case because the rotate comes to staircase, but Pamazoo strikes true, it's shuttle off the board. 3v2 now with 50 seconds left. It's winnable, but it's gonna be difficult.
Things were favoring Astralis. They were in a good position. Very important picks, but now they're going to just walk their way in. Iconic is there. Grenade, or rather a Nitro Cell, goes out after getting his first kill onto Eclipse of this round. Now, heading over towards 90. 2 players from DZ to C. 30 seconds left. Some intel might be available, but nothing so far that seems to be relayed to Iconic. See the silhouette of a player over by security. Diffuser is inside of office, and there goes a drone. Did they spot Iconic, though? That's the real question. I don't think they did, because they're firing at a wall that he's nowhere nearby.
This is smart.
So instead, he sits here, loses his opportunity to take out NJR. So what do? You go back to that Diffuser. There's the Nitro Cell! Tossed perfectly by Iconic, and the lineup onto the buck with the clock saying 0. Count your lucky stars, literally.
No.
Astralis takes the round.
That was a C4 he threw way earlier. So they just walked on in, assumed the C4 was from a dead member maybe or something like that, and then the C4 pays off? I've never seen that before. Normally a C4 will be planted vertically at an angle, and you have no idea where it is, but you look here, Iconic, he tossed it 20 seconds earlier in the round, and here comes the winning moment, taking out the Diffuser carrier. It gives you the 1 versus 1. The timer is ticking down in your favor, sub 3 seconds, and you get that iconic moment once again from the player himself with that same name. And I thought about it when I saw the 1v2, and it's Iconic alive. It's always winnable, there's always a chance, and I think it was Jacob who spoke about this before the game started, saying that he has to kind of show up and lead his team forward for Astralis to get back into this stage. And 7-1 scoreline right now, 7-1-3 in fact, and he's had a stellar game so far, and with that round, putting that onto his team single-handedly in a 1v2 clutch is another great example of that.
This is the Iconic that we saw at the Charlotte Major.
Yes.
This is the Iconic that we are used to seeing here in the North American League, but he'd gone a little bit cold. And this, I think, was just talked about on the desk quite well, was that, yes, you see some players, Iconic in particular, having bad games without DP Fire and without them being able to play on LAN, and that's because he's trying to do too much. And now that the team is there, DP Fire stats are fine. 4-3-3 on a support/utility player. That's pretty good. You now allow Iconic to be Iconic, and he makes plays that are Iconic, and that's just how it works. So that was a great round from DarkZero, even though the misplay towards the end was not necessarily ideal on grabbing that Diffuser and dying to the Nitro Cell. Either way, DZ had the advantage. They worked well through the mid-round, as we see them do consistently, but Astralis were just a little bit better. It's the final round of Astralis' defense, and again, it's a full-court press, well off the bomb site, trying to rebuff any push from DZ that would lead them to head into the building.
And no one's dead yet. The first minute, first 60 seconds off the board now, which means that Astralis have not given away the opening kill yet, but of course, if things they follow along the way they have so far, it's just a matter of seconds before somebody from Astralis will fall, because DZ has every single opening kill so far, basically, with some quick trade sometimes, of course, happening, so we can kind of equalize it, but once again, there it is.
Opening pick for DarkZero. That is 6-4-6. Even if one of them was a trade and another was really close behind, it was still DZ to start things off. So Astralis, again, will need to work on their clutch factor after surrendering that first pick. DP Fire could have been next to follow Iconic in the grave, yet instead he gets away. A nice shrewd play from below as he engages with the Super Shorty to create a line of sight. Can't accomplish much with it. Second logic bomb goes off, and, well, there it is from behind. Canadian walks in, guns down DP Fire. Close to the bomb site, Shuttle picks up his third kill as he retreats into the bathroom. So workshop defense. It went in favor of Astralis, and that's what ultimately prompted the timeout from DZ.
That it was. We see now DC trying to take that vertical control up above, but it's just really Pamazoo right now creeping around. Oh, there it is. Hybrid can come for support, so now they want to try and take this fight.
They're isolating the last couple players from Astralis. It's Forest starting to fall to DarkZero. Nitro Cell goes out. It's successful. Hyper goes bye-bye, and Shuttle picks up kill number 2. Now to watch the hatch with shotgun in hand, opening lines of sight towards lobby. It's a good position for Astralis to be in, but DZ does have a numbers advantage, softening up Pamazoo from below as J9O can retreat, and now Shuttle has vacated the bomb site as well. So Astralis will play from the back. They do not have any actual control of the bomb site, so it's incumbent upon DZ to get down there. They have 15 seconds to do that. Surveying the wreckage through the floor below, now they finally drop, and Astralis will go for the retake. retake, but look, Pambazoo is at the doorway. He's primed and ready. A retake can get easily caught. NJR here's one, and there's Pambazoo. Excellent coverage. J90 swings, claims NJR, but the timer will continue to run for the diffuser, and Eclipse secures the final kill. DZ scrapes by on that first half with 2 rounds. Astralis the lead, but after the timeout, DZ come alive, and that's the first half in the books.
It is, and I mean, this is looking okay for both teams, right? Astralis getting 4 and DC getting 2. They can both be in a somewhat happy position with that, but with how close some of those rounds were, you gotta wonder, you know, DC, how are you doing mentally? Giving up that round to Iconic in the 1 versus 2, losing every single or 4 rounds where you have the opening kill as well, you can do better. In that final round, DC took every single second that they had available to spare to make sure they did not throw or lose that 3 versus 2 advantage, and it worked out for them. But it's a close call once again. 2-4 scoreline, Sideswap comes around. Remember, Asami's off the table, Mira's off the table, so our eyes are really lying on the information operators, right? Canadian, I said, he often plays the poster maps like Cafe, might bring it here. He's on the Valkyrie. So Valkyrie, Echo, Polster, movable information, or that you can put anywhere on the map really, I wouldn't really count Maestro that much in this regard, is really what's going to sway your favor on defense, where you gain information, you can then make a decision with that information, and just like Astralis, you can play forward, aggressively, try and find picks, you know, those 2 versus 1 engagements that we always like to talk about, where the defenders have to make the first move, because if you get to the bomb site in a 5 versus 5 situation, often you will find the attackers being the favor. They got more utility, they got better guns, and once they get the map control, you're stuck in a corner defense, and that's not where you want to be. So Oryx, of course, aggressive, Lesion's aggressive. Every single member over here can take fights, because most of this gadgetry is already being put down before the round even starts. It's only really Lesion who's gonna, you know, charge up those goo mines, and arguably Hyper and Oryx that can like charge through walls, but everything else is already done and dusted.
I think it's a bit of an unorthodox bomb site to go to first, given that it's bathroom tellers and we don't see Armory brought out, or?
Honestly, I wouldn't say it's that crazy, because Bathroom gives you a really big map to work with, because the bomb site itself isn't really accessible unless you clear the entire map. So now, essentially, Astralis have to attack from one end all the way to the other, but this LMG doing so much damage to the wall makes their life so much easier.
And it finally happened, by the way. Astralis gets the opening pick, a second to follow right away, and Iconic trades out most of his HP to accomplish that. He wasn't alone in that effort, though, but both Pambazoo and Hyper are down for the count. All 8 kills from Pambazoo in the grave, no longer available. And still, with this being a bathroom teller's defense for DarkZero, plenty of bodies off-site. Canadian from above right now inside a staff area. You saw Eclipse over by Armory 2. Canadian tries for the fadeaway. Can't do it. Iconic collects kill number 2. And it's Astralis on the precipice of a flawless round. Half of the round. But then they go. They lose Forest. Not ideal for them if they want some posterity here, but still very firmly in the driver's seat. You talked about clearing the map, Nick, but there's a single vault that's stopping Astralis from being in the bomb site at the moment. The question that they need to answer before they can do that, where are NJR and where are Eclipse? And they found one of them so far. Eclipse spotted upstairs inside of security. The jig is up, but with a hatch open can rotate. Not playing Oryx, instead playing Lesion. Beautiful shot onto Iconic. Goodness gracious. Read well by Eclipse, somebody with as much experience as he has. You know that he's prepared for it. NJR now in the line of fire, and it's a trade-off. Eclipse picks up yet another, and he'll be the one to try to clutch out for his team. In a tough spot. 2 kills to be found. Castle barricades there. J90 having some difficulties, but guess what? You got enough bullets to miss a couple times and then realign. First round on attack for Astralis is successful. They pick up the first kill and then roll towards the rest of the round.
It's just not fair when you see like a Sophia LMG with 150 bullets fighting against the Castle UMP. I mean, it's just, I mean, it happened on the East Stairs, and I was thinking, there's no way, NGR, you're gonna swing this gunfight and actually think you're going to win. And he did swing it, and I was right, like, they just didn't win it, because there's just no way. DC tried to play around the fact that they knew where the diffuser was, and it was in a really good position for the defenders. It was on that security balcony leading towards East Stairs, right out in the open from that that one kill on Forest they had found earlier. And I will say, Eclipse played really well around this safe area of security and break room, where NGR was a little bit far forward, playing a little bit more aggressive, and there was like a mismatch between them. Unfortunately, that cancel barricade in the hallway kind of cut them from helping one another, but I do wonder if there's a chance that NGR and Eclipse could have ganged up together and played that 2 versus 2 or 2 versus 3, rather than separating themselves into multiple 1 versus 1s. It was a nice try and a good effort, but ultimately Astralis, they played better together as a team, they collapsed together at 2v2, and therefore they came out the victor. 5-2 now with DC under pressure. We're going to ventilation instead. And as you mentioned, Parker, one of the more successful bomb sites statistically on Border in this small sample size.
And heading into today's matchup, Border only being played twice. There were 6 attempts on Ventilation Workshop, and it went in favor of the attackers. It went in favor of the defenders 4 of those 6 times. So not too bad, ultimately. When it was played versus Astralis and DZ in the first half, it was split 50-50. DZ won it once, Astralis won it once. So really not helping the overall pick rate one way or another, but still not ultimately changing much too, so we'll see. DZ obviously making a dedicated effort to avoid that armory bomb site though, and that is something that's interesting because teams love to go there, even if it does actually have the worst win rate of the 3 sites that we've seen played on this map.
I feel like Armory, whenever I watch people play and when I play myself, is like, it's such a comfort pick because of how Border was in the past. And I feel like you can do, like, I mean, we see it right now from DC, they're basically doing the same setup you would on Armory defense, but on ventilation, which gives you more to work with, and it's just stalling more time.
No Maestro ban, by the way, means that it can be brought out. Iconic, the 2nd time in a row that he's got the opening pick, but Canadian doesn't lose that duel twice. Teams trading back and forth. We're halfway through the round, and almost half of the server is dead. Iconic, down, Forest, down, J90 could have joined, and down goes DP Fires. Pambazoo immediately relocates after that kill. Astralis now trail in numbers. It's DZ, but they're not exactly in the healthiest spot. Pambazoo and Hyper are both mortally wounded, still upright, but a kiss away from death. And there's Hyper finished off by the explosive of J90's lifeline. Suddenly what little was left of the alibi is gone. Pambazoo might be the next one in the line of fire, but he holds a tight angle, waiting patiently. He knows that somebody from Astralis was over there. And Flash from Buck had been thrown in, but Shuttle no follow-up. He'll have to drone himself in. A minute to go.
Doesn't see him though, not yet. Oh, Pambazoo actually playing the blind angle. Gets the drone, of course. Now they know about each other's whereabouts. Pambazoo arguably with the advantage, of course. The Diffuser outside now as well means that DC are in full control with just J90 with 1 HP left to clutch a 1v2.
I got spam pings right now on the position here as J90 spotted away, but Pambazoo has been so lethal with his shots, and that continues onwards as DarkZero gets their own round on defense. Good time. No timeout for DarkZero, by the way. We talked about it when they blew their timeout after round number 3. You said it was a good time at that point for them to call it, which, yes, is true, and it definitely kept them in the game, but they have no parachute left. This is it. They can't slow the game down. They can't do all that much. They're just going to be playing, and that's it. No, again, no ripcord to pull. But for DZ, they look more poised. Workshop goes in the defender's favor. So again, the most defender-favored bomb site on this map goes back into the win column of the defenders. Can come out one more time, providing that we make it that far.
Yeah.
Because the next 2 rounds, the bomb site could still be locked, and that could be all she wrote. Again, no Armory Archives defense upstairs. 3rd defense for DarkZero. They opt to go back to the bomb site they went to in their very first defense, which was that Bathroom Teller's defense. They weren't successful, but again, there's a reason why they're avoiding that top floor bomb site that teams trip over themselves to play.
Yeah, now we gotta look at how they're gonna do things differently this time around, because last time DC went on this bathroom defense, it was Astralis who won, and it wasn't looking too good. Essentially, Astralis, they entered security, they got 2 easy, really quick kills onto a DarkZero, and there was a bit of a scrappy fest where like DC tried to fight back, and eventually, of course, ended up losing the round. So Will they stop them in security, or will they just fall back off and play, around the fact that they have so many different rooms to work? We see right now, security, break room, Easters balcony, Easters itself, archives, armory, castle barricades. There are so many different areas where DarkZero can choose to take the gunfights. It doesn't have to be in the immediate room of which Astralis tries to enter. We see Astralis right now actually kind of reconsidering their points of entry, trying to open up doors and create a bunch of noise in different areas of the map to keep DarkZero guessing as to where they're coming from. But just like last time, they're just walking through security and doing so much damage to Pampazoo.
Damage is being done. They're still healing for Astralis. They find the opening pick yet again, 3 rounds in a row. It certainly seems like it's just the attackers getting the opening pick here on Border. Even if the defenders might have a distinct advantage, still they start things off, and they start things off well. To try and match Pampazoo's total of 12 kills, Iconic really leading the way for his team. He didn't get the first pick in this round. That was Shuttle to do it, but Iconic drew blood through rounds 7 and 8. He's still upright, still has Adrenal Surges, 1 in his pocket. Both nades used out, so not a ton of utility available for this Finka. Instead, arguably one of the best guns in the game in your hands, and that's what you're going to be bringing to this gunfight.
Not looking good here. Eclipse stuck in a room, and of course Hyper has to win this gunfight or fall back, sacrificing his teammate. But no, Eclipse 2 also fell back. That means that DC lives longer. But now the entire map control has been sacrificed onto the attack inside, except for Canadian looking for a cheeky flank.
You might be able to find it. It seemed like Astralis was without information. They've only got 3 drones remaining, so not a ton of intel that they can gather off of that. And with a minute left, you might not even have time, even with the numbers advantage you have. Eclipse will continue to sit on that 5 HP for DarkZero. Other than that, all the defenders sitting pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, and pretty well is pretty good. Forrest, with the exothermic charge, tries to open things up. Canadian answers back. DZ gets their very first kill, trying to keep things close, but Canadian knows that the jig is up as there goes the sledge from above. Almost takes out Iconic, by the way. Good reflexes. Just how much damage that DMR can do. Astralis are inside of the bomb site. They can escort the diffuser in, and it's in the hands of Shuttle being planted. DZ picks off DP fire. Shuttle successful in getting that diffuser down, and now it's Iconic's turn to take damage as the final Adrenal Surge goes out. Jano has a nice cross from inside a bathroom looking towards lobby. He can catch anybody should they opt to push towards the diffuser, but the only problem is DZ are retaking from above, and there's openings that have been created by the Astralis crew. Still 1 player's up. Does Hyper know this? Iconic's looking the wrong way, but he feels something. And there he is to take down Hyper and immediately pivots. So no upstairs control. NJR finishes off Iconic. J90 loses the fight to Eclipse suddenly. This is so winnable. Shuttle will need to clutch out in a 1v1, but Eclipse clutches it, and he has 2 seconds of time to get to it. Goodness gracious, what timing and what clutch potential from DarkZero to win the round and keep the match close.
That seemed impossible, right? You gotta go all the way upstairs and find out where Iconic is laying while also retaking the site itself. You have no HP, no good weapons, you have no information available, but Eclipse just walks in, takes the gunfight with confidence. He wins it out and therefore puts himself in a position to get that 1 versus 1 against the last remaining member on the floor. Astralis are trying to play for time. They were 2 seconds off. If DC had been any slower, even if they found the final kill, they wouldn't have had time to defuse successfully. So it was very, very close. It was not calculated correctly from the side of Astralis. DC capitalizes, they clutch, and they will show us an armory bomb site defense as well here after successfully winning both ventilation and bathroom bomb site against all odds.
Wow, 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 wow. It's just... We talk about clutches, we see them so seldomly, but a Bank in particular tends to be the epicenter of clutches as of late. Yes. That open area bomb site on Bank has provided probably more clutches than any other site in the entire game, and maybe even across all regions. More clutches than everywhere else combined, but Eclipse putting his name down for 1. For a player like Eclipse, who's been playing for 7 years at this point,
long career,
composing a highlight reel of things that he's done in this game would take ages. But you can add that last play to it for how well he and DarkZero were able to play in the post plant, and especially with only 2 seconds left before time ran out. That said, we talked about DZ's allergy to this bomb site. Well, guess what? they're not going to go to customs. Workshop is locked, bathroom is locked, so you have to go upstairs to Armory. And are we going to see some innovative plays from DarkZero that get under the skin of Astralis? Maybe prompt Astralis to get their tactical timeout used up? Well, who knows? Shuttle gets into the building, he gets chewed up by some of the DZ players, then immediately hops out. That's it for the first bit of action.
It's actually a nice vertical angle that Hyber had through the hatch inside of office here, through the soft wall in towards Tellers, through that window jump in. Nate goes out, doesn't do any damage, but clears out the mute jammer. So Astralis showing a clear preference to take this office area. Of course, Heartbreach-wise, they do have a Thermite to work with as well as an Ace. So plenty of different ways for them to deal with the walls themselves. Canadian, of course, on the information operator once more, has a C4 down below, can do some damage. Hybrid drops down as well to join him, perhaps. The double C4 duo looking to try and get proactive. Shuttle missed his opportunity there for a kill, and a 1 C4 about to be sacrificed for a rotate. Second one gets the kill. Big value for DC.
Very first time that a defending team has gotten the first pick, by the way, but it's not long before Astralis can get one of their own, taking out Eclipse, saying thanks for all you accomplished last time around. Hyper picking off Iconic, Forrest hops in, finishes Hyper, gets back out. This is a frenzy right now with just a minute over to go. Just over a minute to go in round number 10. Astralis have been searching for this match point, but they have been denied it for the last 2 rounds. They came so close. In round number 7, they had 5 of them. That's pretty good. But now, again, showing why this is a defender-sided map here in North America as DZ start to run it up on their defensive half.
No nades left from Astralis, which means these walls that are jammed up are going to be hard to deal with unless Sophia goes below and does some vertical damage, but there's not really enough time for that right now, so they'll have to try and problem solve differently. Exothermic Charge goes in the corner, but gets shut down from the flank. It's a 1v3 for J90.
And I think a timeout is going to be looming in Astralis' future right now, as J90 will need that clutch. You point out very well, DZ, stalwart in this defense. The moment that J90 walks a little bit to his right, he'll be spotted by one of the 2 DZ players. It's Panbazoo to collect it. He's just stat padding at this point. Smiles abound on the DZ bench, as I'm sure it's more grim over for Astralis. The lead that they had built up, squandered, as it's a tie game. Both teams with 5 rounds, and yep, as we predicted, Astralis will call their timeout.
Yep. I mean, you're completely right. Like, this is the moment, right? Like, you try to see if you could keep the momentum and see if you could just keep swinging. Now you're back 5-5 even ground. It's basically like round 1 at this point. And now you want to start fresh, get this tactical timeout before you reach OT. At the very worst case, you fight for OT, of course. Carlock gets to talk to his teammates. And of course, so does Mint, the coach of DarkZero, to see if they can bring back what they need to find some rounds here.
What do you even talk about at this point? Because, again, it could just be that you're working against, an incline. You have to run up that hill. This is a defender-sided map. Everything is pointing to that. Through 10 rounds, 7 rounds in the column of the defenders, 3 for the attackers. You're doubling up at this point. Which means, at least for Astralis, based on what we've seen, a 6-6 regulation is most likely, and overtime will be what ultimately settles this between the teams. That's at least what we're looking at based upon the matchup so far. But of course, you don't play the matchup on paper, you play it in the server.
I think if you're call out there, I mean, ventilation's next, because if you look at the bump start rotation, it's ventilation 1, bathroom 1, and then armory 1. That means ventilation opens up. It's that or it's custom, so it's very unlikely to be played. So I think if you're a Astralis in that timeout, you talk about your exact approach to try and get this round victory on the ventilation bump start itself. Because if you get this, you're guaranteed OT at the worst. And at the very best, you win in regulation 7-5, assuming you win the following round after that as well. The one change right now is that DP Fire is in the IQ. Astralis, they are deeming that the information game is too much for them right now. And the thing is, well, DC themselves also made an adaptation, right? They're off the Valkyrie, they only bring the Maestro. The IQ is not super impactful against this, but if you manage to get above, you can deny all of the utility on the bump side itself, but of course, if you're Astralis, it's the roam clear you need to worry about the most. It's trying to gain top floor control in the first place, which is why we saw DarkZero play Jackal and Dogepi and whatnot, because that usually helps you in the first half of the round, not the last half of the round. And Astralis right now, they need to find early advantages to get inside the map comfortably, like they were in their defenses, but now in their attacks instead.
Canadian caught out by Forrest as he vaults through lobby, and he's gunned down and removed from action. That's 30 seconds in, and of course it's a good start from Astralis. But Despite it again being a good start for Astralis, they have 4 of the opening picks through the 5 rounds played on their attack. And just as it happened with DarkZero, just because you don't get that opening pick doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the round. You can surrender it and then still do well through the mid to late round. So DZ are not in trouble just yet, but I would agree. Astralis needs this. This is a big victory. And nades will be tossed in as they hit those Wamai magnets. The Maestro of Eclipse has repositioned. That's another missed opportunity by Astralis.
It is. I mean, J909 knows the guy's stuck in the corner inside of Archives itself, but they can't really act upon it. But Forest finds another. It's NGR off the board, and now slowly but surely, trouble is starting to come in the house of DC as Pembesu falls next.
This is methodical, and you can see Hyper pull out the sidearm. He's not in a good spot right now, but he has that long-range engagement to take it. J90, you're going to need more from him, but no! Astralis collapsing on DarkZero, and they find themselves on match point.
They got what they wanted. Timeout taken. Round 1. Now at the very worst, you're guaranteed overtime where you get a little bit more breathing room as you get a chance on both defense and attack. And, well, if you can do this one more time, if you're expecting the ventilation to go back to back, you can repeat this with the timeout information that your coach gave you and see if you can find success. But, oh, would you look at that? Customs being brought up from DC. This is pretty much arguably the last parachute. You said earlier, DC has no parachutes left. I would almost argue that this is like a lifeboat. This is like, oh snap, we're crashing, we're in the water, hit the button right now. That's the Customs bomb site. This is not a bomb site that we see very often, and it's not a bomb site that sees a huge amount of success for the defensive side. So I'm curious to see what DC has in mind, because this is what we call a pocket strat, where you prepare for this worst case scenario, you bring it out, you haven't really shown it that many times before, so it might just work. The Thunderbird on NGR is one of the most pivotal operators in terms of difference. You can play very aggressive, take some damage, get healed back up. It's almost a way to kind of challenge the finger heals, where as long as you stay alive, you will always be healthy in the defense. And look how much setup they've done inside of security itself. They're clearly having a very big preference and trying to hold this successfully, because once security falls, the attackers get full bombs at access vertically.
One thing to note, by the way, or 2 things to note, rather.
2 things.
1, this is the first time that Customs has been played on the 3 attempts at border here in NA. Has not shown up yet. We have no stats on it through the 3 times that it's been played. And additionally, at the Charlotte Major, this bomb site was played 1 time, and it was by DarkZero in the final round of the match. DarkZero pulled it out and then won it, and ultimately won border off of it. And, well, it doesn't look like it's going to be repeated anytime soon, as Astralis walks in and absolutely slaughters the 2 players from DarkZero playing up top. Hyper and Eclipse are good as gone, and with still over 2 minutes to go, it's a 5v3 favoring Astralis.
That was too easy. That was like all that setup, all that time, all those resources. One guy jumps in a window, gets basically 2 kills, it's over. And now you gotta really hit the big red emergency button saying, we need to find kills right now. DC needs to be proactive, leverage out, you know, the fact that some members might be isolated, take that 1 versus 1, win that 1 versus 1, and try and get that back to man count. That's what Pembesu did right there, but Astralis playing so far back, not exposing themselves to those 1v1 gunfights, just keeping this advantage.
You know why Pembesu is uniquely situated to do that move that you just saw, Nick?
Because he's the fastest operator in the game?
Because he's the fastest operator in the game. You're
Nice.
damn right. You're absolutely correct. A run out from jail and then back into the safety of the bomb site as Pembesu's position is given away shortly, but that's about it. A minute of quiet between these teams. Setup being done by both. Canadian on the run out.
No
this is
way,
a deep
no
run
way.
out. No, Canadian. How do you miss that? Goodness. Shuttle on 1 HP, but still such a missed opportunity. And now it's DP Fire's attempt to feast on the back lines. He gets 2, and it's iconic to get rid of Pembesu. The timeout for Astralis working wonders. Defender sided or not. It just ultimately was up to DZ to run up the score on their defensive half. They couldn't do it. Astralis settled themselves down, and they walk away with a 7-5 victory. Not just getting the Charlotte Major rematch, but also the border rematch under their belts.
And even similar operator balance, not 1-1, but pretty damn close. I mean, and I know Eclipse and DC, they clutched that 1 round with the post plant or the retake, but let's go back really quick to say, what if that iconic 1 versus 2 hadn't worked out for Astralis? We had overtime on the menu, essentially, so it was a very close game, but ultimately Astralis They proved everybody wrong, predicted DarkZero, which is basically all of us, besides JoBro.
Of course. Well, I mean, I thought that this would be a bounce back for DZ, but this is a really tough loss for DarkZero, who entered the day in 7th. Astralis fighting for a major spot. With DarkZero only having 4 matches left and suffering this loss, the likelihood of seeing DZ at the Berlin Major is getting the likelihood pretty small at this point. As small as the break that we're going to throw to, by the way. It's not very short, or it's not very long. It's quite short. We'll see you in just a couple seconds, and then hear the analysts break down what happened between Astralis and DZ. Sit tight.
Welcome back to the Rainbow Six North American League Analyst Desk. Doa, your host, here along with Jesse, Chick, Caliber, Jacob, and JoBro from Team Sonics here, helping us out on the analysis. And over in Las Vegas, we have none other than Iconic himself standing by to chat a little bit about that win over DarkZero. So, Iconic, people have been talking a little bit. We've been wondering, where were the numbers in stage 1? They are here today. Do you feel like something was different today, or what do you think it was that helped you put down such a great score line? 15-6, I think it was.
I mean, today was just like probably one of our first games, this stage where it was like fully like normal compared to like last stage with BP being healthy, everyone being in the arena, everyone being together. So, so it was just a great day to be back. And yeah, I mean, we just went out there and played our game and we won.
All right.
I want to bring you back a little bit to the last Playday because you had a pretty rough game, your worst of the year so far, against TSM, roaming on bank. It felt like you weren't able to really get anything done. Was that all just because of the circumstances, or did you feel that something else was going wrong that game?
I mean, bad games happen to everyone. That's all it is. It was just a game. Stuff wasn't working for me, and that's it. So we just move on from that.
All right.
All right, so Iconic. So going from the major to this win here on Border, obviously it was a rematch from that map. You guys fell to DZ in the major, arguably a map that you wanted to win. How did you guys go back to the drawing board and figure out what was going right for you on Border to continue, and also identify what you wanted to fix?
I mean, obviously in the major we made some execution issues from like our side of our game plan, so that led to like us feeling like we shouldn't have really lost that map in the grand final. So obviously, like, we were still confident on it. We just been practicing on it this week and just really focusing on what we did wrong in the major and just making sure we had our game plan tightened up this time.
All right.
Like, big win, obviously, but if you had to put a percentage to it, like, what capacity do you say you're operating at right now? Is it, like, based upon how happy you are you say you're 60%, 70%, 80%, or do you still feel like you have a long way to go because you have to kind of catch up from the weeks where you weren't able to play on stage?
I mean, I feel like I'm always at 100 capacity. It's just sometimes, like, you just have, like, those bad games, and with the NAL, it's best of one, so, like, stats really don't mean much in my eyes, so I just don't really pay attention to any of that. I know what my teammates think I can do. They believe in me, so we just try not to let anything shake our confidence.
Yeah, fair enough. A win is a win. I got one more question before we let you go here. Now, obviously, Iconic is your ID, but your hair and your glasses for last stage, that was also a bit iconic. I got to know, where to go? What prompted the change?
I mean, you know, sometimes after you've had such a hair, I've been growing out for about 2 years, so, no, it was just time for a switch up, you know, went back to the roots, so, yeah, I hope you guys like it.
Yeah, no, you're looking good. I was saying that too. Yeah, looking very sleek now. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you just need a change. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, congrats on the win today. Good luck in your match tomorrow, and thanks for taking the time to chat with us a bit.
Hey, thank you, guys. You guys have a great day.
You too.
You too.
He has to make sure the bat mask fits on faster
Oh,
when he
that's
puts it on.
true.
Yeah,
Does help. It does help.
Yeah, the Batman mask definitely has something to do with it. Well, there
Also
is
more
that.
aerodynamic too for
Yes.
this matchup.
You should know
Always
about
helps.
that.
Yeah.
7-5 victory in rounds for Astralis over DZ today. Obviously, we just talked to Iconic putting down a great stat line here. But like you said, it's a team effort, right? And everybody showed up today for Astralis, it felt like.
Yeah, big turnaround from Iconic, I think, as an individual. We highlighted in the pregame how he hasn't been having the best of stage. We know historically he can be such a strong player, and we finally saw that coming out today. I felt especially in that second half, you know, the way he was able to find a lot of those opening picks, the way he was able to clear out a lot of those roamers. He was doing a great job to shut down DZ's, aggressive plays that they had to do over here on Border. And yeah, it was a nice little start from him. Also had that insane clutch back in that first half, so beautiful game.
And welcome back to stage DP Fire. Look at that stat line. For somebody who had to mainline Habana for not actually being able to play with the rest of the squad, it feels like this was a really nice return to form, showing that Astralis, in spite of having a bit of a slow start and getting a couple of points even when things weren't going their way they're in their own environment, it's still nice that they're able to bounce back this quickly too.
It's absolutely a testament to, like, vibes win games sometimes. So, like, you have your whole roster, like Iconic said, everyone's back in, you're playing at full strength, you feel great, and you play great. And that's what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, you get rolling, and sometimes with DarkZero coming back a little bit too, it was a little bit difficult to keep that mental fortitude strong, right? Because then you start thinking, I'm sure some of those players starting to think back to the Charlotte Major and like, oh no, here we go again. You know, starting to come back. DarkZero, they get stronger that the round or the match goes, but Astralis taking it in the end. But you know what? I've been told we got to take a look at some predictions. I know,
Come on.
some of us don't want to do that, but I don't choose these things. I don't choose these things. Look at this. Wow, the coin has fallen under 40%.
I'm not giving you any attention.
Rough stage for the coin, but almost as rough a stage for our own Caliber Jacob. What's the plan to get back into it, Jacob?
I don't want to talk about it.
What's happened, buddy?
All right.
Well,
But
so you know what? Actually, no. I will say something.
Okay,
there was
go
the
ahead.
time where I won this. That was like 75% or something. That was the time where I reached so deep into my bag of tricks and actually had, I think that was the best percentage record I've ever had for a single stage. But the curse lives on. So I think I'm gonna go that way for the rest of my predictions this day. How low can I get this? How many teams can I take to the grave with me?
the caliber Jacob curse. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have the
BDS
Joe Bro Bless today.
I don't know. So like Jacob's going to be like tanking his predictions all the to the bottom.
It's like benching all my players in fantasy football.
Yeah.
I'll lose on purpose now.
I'm going to be. I truly believed that bringing back your whole roster, having everybody healthy, was really going to be a difference maker.
100%.
And I trusted that Call Out and the boys would go back and debug exactly what went wrong on Border. Very similar to like what Iconic said. So
yeah.
I believed that they had that ability to figure out what went wrong, pinpoint it, keep the things that worked, and then also add in the new stuff to be able to beat DZ this time around.
Yeah, well, hey, you did it. Now let's see if you can complete the sweep in our next two maps. We'll find out. But first, we got to take a look at some replays from this last one. The first replay we're going to take a look at is going to be round at number 5. This is one of my favorite ones because this was Iconic, just being Iconic, and also playing like GoldenEye remote mines out there. It was a cool round.
So smart to use the C4 here. Iconic, you can see it's in his back pocket right now. They're entering into the bomb site, and he goes down. Iconic just tosses the C4. Did you catch that? And threw it almost perfectly, like on the kit. It was a bit of a toss, and then to be able to pop it right when they pick it up. This was such a skillful and smart play, and none of us even caught this until he hit detonate. This was so smart for Iconic to be able to clutch this 1v2. 99% of the time, you're not going to win this.
I thought he threw it out the window, honestly, and then he was just hoping for somebody to be on the AC Balk. So I didn't even catch that it landed right on the kit. So that is absolutely like the 5-head play that you want in order to win here, because like he's waiting, boom, picks it up, just has to guess, but he gets it and he wins the round.
That's so sick. I love it. This is just one of my favorite plays in a while because this is one of those like little creative uses of some of the side gadgets that you don't see quite as often, right? I mean, everyone is going to try to get kills with those, but you don't see it like flicked onto the kit very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Couldn't think of the word kit for a second. Now, well, anyway, our next round that we're going to take a look at is round at number 9. And this was, a high point, I would say, for DarkZero. And they did have a little bit of a comeback here and there. They did look like they were gaining strength when they tied it up 5-5. This was the round right before that, I believe. And this was just a nice clutch win for them.
Yeah, this was one of those rounds that looked pretty bad for them. 3v3, Kit goes down. They're kind of off the site, right? They're not in amazing positions. Jane, I know, on the other hand, is in like a pretty solid spot here to be able to win a gunfight, to hold down the site. DarkZero kind of like positioned around here. Hyper goes up the metal stairs to try to find some of these top floor players and shut down some of the calls there, but he is on a drone, so this is like a very difficult fight for Hyper to try to take. Iconic on LMG just around the wall. Certainly should win this and does. So now it's a 3v2, but still NJR is managing to find one. This long angle from Jin, I know that I talked about. He should be winning these, but he's just not able to beat out Eclipse in the 1v1. Beautifully played there from Eclipse. Wow. So good to walk in and get the disable. The timing as well. I think 9 seconds when he jumps on that. So hard.
He had like a little over 2, I think, remaining or something like that.
Yeah.
That was
just barely. And if you watch that from the top down too, you'll see the exact moments where all the DZ defenders try to come back in to retake. It feels like he very nearly doesn't have the time for it. And when Eclipse swings in, looks at J9O just sitting there inside bathroom, I figure LMG wins this. There are times where the LMG does fail you, and that was one of them.
There you go. Rare, but it does happen occasionally. Let's take a look at the standings after that one, because again, like it's just worth looking at it because it's always so close. And check that out, Astralis jumping up to 4th with that one.
It's a huge deal, but I wanted to highlight this specifically because of the teams that have points, DarkZero is suddenly at the bottom of that list down here with Parabellum. The team that won the Charlotte Major 5 games in, 1 more to play tomorrow until we start getting to this crunch period. Obviously, everything is still super close. Only 4 points separate the guys that have any points from the top like 2 at this stage in the game. But it's still insane how DZ at this point, because of how close everything has been and Astralis getting that dub, means Astralis go from like 7th back up into major contention, and DarkZero are still kind of stuck down here.
I mean, we're just going to see things bounce around like that indefinitely for the rest of the stage. I feel like everyone's so close. Like you mentioned, Jacob, 4 points separate 9th from 1st right now. It does not get closer than this. So it's going to be a fun stage for the rest of it, and it's going to be a fun map that we have to look forward to. It's going to be our own Joe Bros Sonics taking on Space Station Gaming. So when we come back, get ready for a totally neutral, unbiased, objective analysis pregame segment from our entire desk, no exceptions. Don't go anywhere. Rainbow Six North American League back in just a few with map number 4.